Hello, my name is Erin, and I'm a K-5 elementary music teacher in Northern Indiana, and I'm also the teacher author behind From Do Re Mi to You. So it's been a while since I posted a video. I took December off. It's a really busy time for my family and really just any music teacher or teacher in general. But I am back, and I thought I would start off 2025 with a music teacher question and answer video. So I sent an email out to my email list a couple weeks ago saying, what questions do you have for me about teaching and music and TPT? And y'all responded. So we're going to answer a few questions here today. Okay, so the first question comes from Kelsey, and she writes, I am a new teacher and I love my students, I love my school, but lesson planning is killing me. It takes me hours to plan every week and I always feel behind. Is lesson planning always this difficult? So the short answer is no, it is not always this difficult. But if you are a new teacher, you cannot expect yourself to know the repertoire the same way that a veteran teacher does. You don't have that arsenal of songs and lessons and activities and games and the slides and just lessons developed. So it does take a lot longer. That being said, here are some tips to help you with lesson planning because I know it can be really overwhelming. Number one, especially in your first year, it's totally okay to combine grade levels together. You're still getting to know your students and their knowledge. So combine K1 together to 3 and 4-5 together when it comes to lesson planning. That way you're spending your time developing 3 good lessons instead of 6 mediocre haphazard lessons. And then the next year, you've got half of your lessons already designed and planned, and then you can focus on the other grade levels. Secondly, having some sort of lesson routine makes it easy to plan because you're just kind of plugging and dropping activities in. I know for me, with my older kids, I have a standard lesson routine of a short opening activity, a short physical and musical warm-up, a short literacy review with solfege or rhythm, and then I usually have time for 2 main activities. And so I know I have those 5 things every lesson. So I'm just looking for those as I plan, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to recreate the structure every time I go around. It makes it so much easier. And then make sure you save everything. So save your lesson plans or your lesson outlines. I save everything on a spreadsheet. I'll link my copy down below so you can make your own copy. It saves so much time when everything is hyperlinked and I can see what I did from the previous year. And then also save your slides that you make. I keep everything in a really big slideshow per grade level. It's messy, but I can search through it and I have those slides already made, and then the next year I can just make them look a little bit nicer. And then last but not least, it's really okay to rely on already created curriculum. As a new teacher, you want good models. So my first year teaching elementary music, I would say maybe 75% of what I taught came from the game plan books, which are an ORF-based paper curriculum. So whether you use game plan or music play or Quaver, just something as a source to rely on as you get your feet wet. I hope that helps. Okay, number 2 comes from Anna, and she writes, I am a trained pianist and I did not major in music education. I'm doing a maternity leave sub starting in February and I'm expected to teach recorder. Help, I don't know where to begin. I haven't touched one in at least 25 years. Well, kudos for you for taking on this maternity position. I wish you the best of luck. My suggestion, especially as someone who's a recorder geek, is to, number 1, think through all of your routines and procedures before students come into the classroom. If you wait until you've got a class of 25 or 30 students to kind of figure out how they're going to get recorders out, what they're going to do with the recorders once they have them, how are they going to know when to play, when not to play, you're setting yourself up for disaster because it's going to be haphazard. So think through all those procedures first. Secondly, if you haven't played recorder in 25 years, take one home and start practicing. Give yourself a goal. I want to learn X song. I want to do Y, goal with this by the end of my position. In reality, you just need to be a couple steps ahead of your students. You don't need to be a professional. It's okay. Just know a couple more notes than your students. And then when it comes to teaching recorders, I'm going to do a whole video on this later this month on recorder tips and tricks. But I recommend not starting with the whole recorder right away. Start with just the mouthpiece, okay? And teach them how to make a proper sound. I'm not going to do it here today because my kids are still sleeping, but just sealing the bottom and then blowing lightly will create a lower sound. And if you overblow, it creates a higher sound. So just starting with the mouthpiece and echoing rhythms until they can control their air, and then adding the whole recorder together by just teaching notes by rote at first. Because if you expect kids to be able to control their air, control their tongue, control their fingers, and read rhythm in or written notation for the very first time all at once, you're setting yourself up for disaster and your kids are going to get really frustrated. And last but not least, make sure that when you're teaching songs that you break down the songs. Have a specific teaching process. Go through the rhythm, go through the note names, find the patterns. That's gonna help your new music readers out a lot. And I'm also gonna put a plug in for my recorder curriculum, Joyful Noise, because I have digital slides for every song that breaks down that teaching process for you. And it's really helpful if you don't know where to begin with your process. Question number 3 comes from Renee, and she wrote, got any ideas or resources on kalimba music? The short answer is no. I have one in my classroom, but it's incredibly out of tune, so I don't really use it for much of anything. But if you don't know what a kalimba is, it is a thumb piano. I'll put a picture up here. If they're in tune, they sound beautiful, and it's a very relaxing sound. I knew that I had a friend at some point did something with kalimba, so I had to do some research and digging, and what I found out was she had this after school music club that she did years ago. There was a parent that played kalimba, and so he built the boxes for the instruments, and she bought kits off of Amazon, and the specific link isn't active anymore, so I can't list the listing that she used, but the students painted their own kalimbas and built it, and she said it was a lot of fun. The 6th graders in her building had a blast. 5th graders liked it, but they struggled. 4th grade, it was kind of a mess for them. So, but I'm assuming if you're asking about kalimba music or resources, you maybe have a class set of kalimbas, which is totally awesome, but I don't have any resources, and my friend said that they just had time to go through some of the songs that they had been learning in class. So I'm not much help there. I'm so sorry, but I am really curious about this whole set of kalimbas that you may or may not have. Question number 4 comes from Christy, and she wrote, how do you deal with difficult or angry parents? Ooh, this is a tough one because it's something that every teacher is going to deal with. It doesn't matter how nice you are, it doesn't matter how good of a teacher you are, you're going to have difficult parents. And when you teach elementary music and you have 400, 500, 600 students or more, you have more parents to deal with. So first and foremost, try not to take things personally, and I know that's easier said than done. Most parents are just trying to protect their child the best way that they know how. It may not be the best way, it may not be helpful to their child or to you. They're just trying to do their best the way that they know how to do. In most cases, I think just offering a simple acknowledgement of the situation is enough to appease most parents. Hey, I'm sorry that your child had a headache by the time they came home from school. We were about 5 minutes before the end of class and they mentioned that their head was hurting, but I didn't realize they had medication in the nurse's office to take. So I know for next time if she asks to go down to the nurse's office for a headache. That's usually enough to appease a situation. I think it's also a good idea to check in with the classroom teacher for any background knowledge on the child or the parent that may help you know how to respond. Likely that teacher has already had contact with the parent, and you may find out that it's not a you problem. It may be just how the parent reacts to students. I remember my first parent-teacher conference. This is on the high school level, but the first group of parents that came in, they smiled, they shook my hand. The student was like one of my best singers and leaders in choir, and they sat down with a big smile, and then they just continued to yell at me for 10 minutes straight about everything I was doing wrong. It left me shaking for the rest of the evening, but I found out after the fact that they do this to every teacher, every conference. It's just how they protect their child. Was it helpful? No, but I learned that it was not a me problem. It was a them problem. But for serious situations, if something can't just be resolved with a phone call or a message, it's hard to admit this, but you should let your administration know. You don't want your principal getting a phone call from an angry parent before you've had the chance to explain your side of the situation. They can also, at least my principal has no problem proofreading messages before I send out an email to a difficult parent, or give advice or be an advocate for you. But you want to be on top of those situations and not let those situations happen to you. So keep your admin in the loop, and they should be a good advocate for you. And last but not least, question number 5 comes from Danny, and he wrote, I'm thinking about starting a TPT store. Is it worth it? What are the pros and cons? Overall, it is absolutely worth it, but there are definitely some pros and cons. So I'm going to start with the cons first. Number 1, there is definitely a learning curve when it comes to designing resources. You can't just take what you made in the classroom and just throw it up there and expect it to sell. You have to learn how to make resources that are TPT worthy. You have to learn how to design resources, flatten resources, make covers and thumbnails and previews, and understand SEO and listings. It's a lot of work, and no matter how hard you try, those first 10, 15 resources are going to be absolute crap, if I'm being honest. And then you have the fact that it does take time to make good quality resources, and you can't work on those resources during school hours or on school devices. So most TPT sellers, they work before school in the mornings. That's not me at all. Or after school or in the evenings, which is what I do after the kids go to bed when my brain is the most tired. So it takes me longer to get things done. Which means if you are needing money right now, which is why you wanted to start a TPT store, TPT is not a get rich quick scheme. It takes a lot of time and effort. I think my first month I made about $3 or so. And by the end of that first year, it was August to December. I started my store in, I think, end of July. I had made like 90 some dollars, not even $100. And I spent more than that, on clip art, fonts, Microsoft PowerPoint, all of that. So it was really a wash that first year. But the pro is, with consistency, your store can grow and make money. There are teachers out there that have completely replaced their teacher's salary. That's not me at all. But it feels really good when I can help pay off the rest of our windows or help us save money for our summer vacation. And that's been really nice for me to be able to do. I think another pro is that it helps you become a better teacher, because you get to really dive into the teaching process, and you get to create high quality resources that you can use in your own classroom on your students. And then the best part is that you get to help other teachers. And I absolutely love it when I get messages from teachers or reviews from other teachers saying that my resources were really beneficial for them. They helped their students, and it was engaging, and it was time saving. All of those messages really warm my heart, and they make my day. So overall, it is worth it, but it does take a lot of effort to do it well. So that was 5 questions that you guys sent to me. I hope that was helpful. I hope there was something for every teacher in there. And if you would like to have more of these videos, leave a question down below and maybe I'll make another video in the future. My next videos I have coming out in the next month or so, I'm gonna do a video on using champs in the classroom, which is something that I had to learn how to do this year. And also, I'm going to make a video on recorder tips and tricks because I know a lot of you are going to be starting recorders in the near future. And with that, make sure you subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, all that stuff so you know when my next video comes out. And happy 2025 and happy musicking.